Archaeologists found over 15,000 fragments of ancient text. Think about that. A library shattered into dust. For nearly 2,000 years, this cave in the Judean desert held its silence. The air inside was perfectly dry, a time capsule sealed by rock and forgotten by man. Outside, the world changed. Empires rose and fell, but in here, nothing moved. Until 1952, Bedouin shepherds chasing a lost goat found the opening. What they uncovered would rewrite history. The official story focuses on the discovery of biblical texts, the oldest ever found. But that's not the whole truth. And here's the part nobody talks about. Hidden among the familiar psalms and prophecies was a book that was never meant to be found. A book whose very existence challenges the story we've been told. It wasn't written on a grand scroll. It was pieced together from hundreds of tiny, brittle fragments, a puzzle from the ancient world. Its name is the Book of Giants. Yes, you heard that correctly. The giants from Genesis 6. The Bible gives them a single verse, then moves on, almost as if it's an uncomfortable detail. But this text doesn't just mention them, it gives them names. Oya, Haya, Mahweh. It gives them voices. It tells their story. These beings were described as the children of fallen angels and human women. Powerful, unnatural. Their violence and corruption were said to be the reason God sent the Great Flood. At least that's one version of the story. This book tells another. You see, the giants knew their end was coming. The fragments describe their terrifying nightmares, visions of a world drowning. They see a scribe washing a tablet in water, and as the water touches it, all the names but 3 are erased. They are watching a prophecy of their own extinction. Panicked, they seek out the only man they believe can intercede for them with God himself, the prophet Enoch. But the fragile text raises a terrifying question. What happens when the monsters are the ones who start to pray? And what exactly did Enoch say when he delivered God's reply? It was a verdict. The fragments are clear on this point. God's judgment was final, and there would be no mercy. You see, when Enoch delivered the message, he carried 2 stone tablets. On them were not words of forgiveness, but a sentence. The giants would be bound, imprisoned within the earth for all eternity. Their spirits would become the evil spirits that plague humanity until the final day. Think about that for a moment. The monsters prayed for salvation. The answer they received was eternal damnation. This wasn't just a story about a flood. It was an origin story for demons. The work of translating these messages fell to a small group of international scholars. In a room at the Rockefeller Museum in Jerusalem, nicknamed the Scrollery, they faced a task of biblical proportions. One of these men was Józef Milik, a brilliant Polish priest and linguist. He and his team were given tens of thousands of brittle, brown fragments. Some were the size of a postage stamp, others no bigger than your fingernail. Their job was to piece together a library that had been turned into confetti 2 millennia ago. The air in the scrollery was thick with the smell of old parchment and unfiltered cigarette smoke. For years, these men worked under immense pressure, matching scripts, identifying watermarks only they could see, reassembling a lost world. The official publications from this period focused on texts that confirmed the existing Bible. And here's the part that gets conveniently omitted. Milik was the one who first identified the Aramaic fragments of the Book of Giants in Qumran Cave 4. He published his preliminary findings in 1976, but the full text, the complete picture, remained locked away from public view for decades. Why? Why would a story this significant be put on the back burner? The answer is unsettling. The giants of this book are not the simple brutes of fairy tales. They have names. They have fears. They dream of their own destruction and weep when they hear their fate. They are tragically, horrifyingly human. This presented a serious problem for the established narrative. How can you have a simple story of good versus evil when the monsters themselves are complex characters? But the real discovery, the one that changes everything, wasn't made in the dust of the Judean desert. It was made 4,500 kilometers to the east. In the early 20th century, a German expeditions exploring the Silk Road in the Turpan Depression of China found the ruins of an ancient monastery. Inside, they uncovered a library, not of Jewish texts, but of Manichaean ones. Manichaeism was a major world religion founded in Persia in the 3rd century A.D. And among their sacred writings, scholars found the Book of Giants. Yes, you heard that right. The same story, the same characters. Oya, Haya, Mawe, the same plot. This wasn't a coincidence. The prophet Mani, the founder of the religion, had deliberately incorporated the story of Enoch and the giants into his own theology. He saw them as the ultimate example of imprisoned divine light trapped in corrupt material bodies. A perfect metaphor for his own teachings. So now you have two identical versions of the same forbidden story. One, a Jewish text from the time of Jesus, found at Qumran. The other, a Manichaean scripture from a religion that flourished 500 years later, found on the border of modern China. They are separated by half a continent and half a millennium, yet they tell the exact same tale. This wasn't a legend passed down through word of mouth, changing with each telling. This was a text, a specific written document being copied and preserved with incredible accuracy across cultures and centuries. Which leads to the real question. If both the Jews at Qumran and the Manichaeans in China were copying this book, what were they copying it from? If the Qumran scribes and the Chinese Manichaeans were copying the Book of Giants, what were they copying it from? The answer is an academic's nightmare. They were copying from a ghost, a master text, a vorlage that no longer exists. It has vanished from history completely. We only have its echoes. So if you can't find the original document, you have to hunt for the original story. You have to look for the blueprint. And that search takes you 500 years earlier and 800 kilometers northeast of Jerusalem, to the floodplains of Mesopotamia. Here, baked into clay tablets, is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The story is eerily familiar. It tells of a king, Gilgamesh, who is 2/3 God and 1/3 man, a giant among mortals. He has a companion, Enkidu, who has a terrifying dream foretelling his own death, a vision of the grim, dusty underworld. Panicked by this prophecy, Gilgamesh embarks on a desperate journey to find the only man who survived the great flood, Utnapishtim, to learn the secret of immortality. Now think back to the Book of Giants. The giants Oya and Haya have terrifying dreams. Visions of a cosmic flood washing the world clean. They see their own destruction. And who do they seek out for answers? The prophet Enoch, the man who walked with God and escaped death. It's the same story. A giant hero, a prophetic dream of doom, a journey to an immortal elder for answers. The names have been changed. The cultural details are different. But the bones of the narrative are identical. And here's where it gets interesting. The fallen angels of the Enoch story, of the Watchers who descended to teach humanity forbidden knowledge. They have a Mesopotamian parallel too. They were known as the Apkallu. 7 ancient sages, sometimes described as fishmen, who were said to have emerged from the Persian Gulf. They brought the secrets of civilization to humanity before the flood. They taught mankind writing, law, architecture. They were culture bearers, servants of the God of wisdom, Enki. So why, when this story is retold in the Book of Enoch, do these benevolent teachers become corrupting demons? Why does the gift of knowledge become a sin? This is the part nobody likes to talk about. The story wasn't just copied, it was deliberately inverted. One culture's heroes became the next culture's villains. A story of wisdom became a story of corruption. And this transformation is the key to why the Book of Giants was ultimately buried. For centuries, this story was wildly popular. The Book of Enoch, from which the Giants narrative originates, was considered sacred scripture by many Jewish groups during the Second Temple period. It's even quoted in the New Testament, in the Epistle of Jude. But then, it vanished from the mainstream. The official reason is a debate over canonicity. Around 90 AD, after the destruction of the Temple in Jerusalem, Jewish sages met to standardize their holy texts. This was the birth of the Hebrew Bible as we know it. And in this process, some books were declared in, and others were left out. The Book of Enoch, and with it the Book of Giants, was cast out. Why? Think about it. The story presents a universe where angels can rebel. They can procreate. They are the direct cause of evil entering the world. This complicates the simple narrative of human sin and divine justice. It suggests that the heavens themselves are capable of chaos. For the architects of a new unified Judaism, this was a rogue element, a theological loose end. It was easier to cut the story entirely than to explain it. So they did. And for over 1,000 years, the Western world forgot it. The book was believed to be lost forever. Except it wasn't. One community kept it. One church, isolated by mountains and politics, held on to the complete Book of Enoch as part of their official Bible, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. They preserved it in the ancient Ge'ez language, while everyone else was trying to erase it. The book that described the eternal imprisonment of the giants. It was itself sentenced to a prison of silence. And the reason it was finally locked away is far more disturbing than the giants themselves. It wasn't about what the angels did. It was about what they revealed. About God. Was a fracture in the divine plan. It wasn't just about what they did. It was about what their story implied about God Himself. Think about it. If evil can begin in heaven, not just in a garden with an apple, then the story of humanity is not about a fall from grace. It's about being born into the middle of a cosmic war that started long before we ever arrived. This concept was a direct threat to the tidy, ordered universe being described by religious authorities. And that is why a book had to become a secret. So, place yourself there. Imagine you are a scribe living near the Dead Sea around the year 68 AD. The Roman legions are marching. Jerusalem is about to burn. Your entire world is ending. You have hundreds of scrolls in your community's library, including the popular and powerful Book of Enoch, with its story of the giants. You know you cannot let the Romans destroy them, and you fear the new religious leaders in your own faith might erase them. What do? You take the scrolls. You wrap them in linen and place them inside clay jars, sealing the lids with pitch. You carry them into the driest, most remote cave you know, Cave 4. In the dark, with the dust of centuries already settling, you are not just hiding a document. You are preserving a memory of a different kind of universe, a more dangerous one. Now, fast forward nearly 2,000 years, to Józef Mielik in the Scrollery. Born in 1922 in Poland, Mielik was a Catholic priest ordained in 1946 before dedicating his life to these ancient texts. He sits there under the haze of cigarette smoke, his fingers stained with ink and the dust of millennia. And he pieces together a story his own church had condemned. The official record shows his brilliant academic publications. But what was the personal cost? We know he was a man of faith. How does a priest reconcile the God of the New Testament with the God of Enoch, who sentences the children of his own angels to eternal damnation? Without a trial? Read that again. Not just punishment. An eternal sentence passed down before they could even plead their case. No one ever asked him on the record how this text affected his prayers at night. That part of the story is sealed tighter than any cave. But while Mielik wrestled with the fragments in Jerusalem, one group of people never lost the story at all. In the remote highlands of Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church kept the full book of Enoch in their official biblical canon. For them, this wasn't a controversial text, it was just Scripture. For 1,500 years, while the West debated and erased, monks in churches carved from a single living stone, like those at Lalibela, copied the text by hand. Think of the quiet dedication, the unwavering belief that you are preserving a sacred truth that the rest of the world has thrown away. Their isolation became an ark, saving a book about a great flood from a flood of censorship. So why does this story, buried by one tradition and preserved by another, still hold such power over us? It's not just the spectacle of giants and fallen angels. It's the tragedy. The giants were hybrids, the children of heaven and earth, belonging fully to neither. They possessed immense power, but were cursed with prophetic dreams of their own inevitable destruction. They were an evolutionary dead end, born into a world they would ultimately break. And perhaps that is why we cannot look away from their story. Because when you read about these doomed, conflicted beings, trapped between their divine ambition and their earthly fate, are you, in some small way, reading about yourself? Is the entire point. The reason we cannot look away from the story of the giants is because it has never stopped being our story. These ancient, brittle fragments are not just theology. They are the earliest known records of human anxiety, a snapshot of our deepest, most persistent fears. Think about what that means. 2,000 years ago, people were terrified of the same things we are today. They feared that the powers controlling the universe were chaotic, that they were caught in a conflict far bigger than themselves, that their own creations might lead to their destruction. This narrative pattern is not an isolated incident found in a single cave. In ancient Greece, they were the Titans, divine beings locked in a war that shook the cosmos. In Norse mythology, they were the Jotun, frost giants whose war with the gods would end the world at Ragnarok. The names change, the details shift, but the core story, the story of powerful beings whose existence threatens the world order, remains identical. It's an echo that refuses to fade. And here's the part we tend to overlook. The decision by religious authorities to bury the Book of Enoch didn't kill the story. It made it immortal. By making it forbidden knowledge, they turned it into a mystery, a secret whispered in the dark for centuries. They tried to silence an idea. Instead, they gave it power. The official canon of the Bible gives us a story of order, a clear line between good and evil, heaven and earth. But these rejected texts paint a different picture. They describe a universe that is messy, unpredictable, and frighteningly alive, and a universe where even angels can fall. So we are left with a puzzle, thousands of pieces from a shattered library. We will never have the full text of the Book of Giants from Qumran. We will never know all the details. And perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. The story is incomplete by design. The silence from the missing fragments forces you to lean in closer. It asks you to fill the void with your own imagination. These scrolls are not a history book with a neat conclusion. They are a mirror. And after 2,000 years, the reflection it shows is not of a forgotten race of giants from the past. It is a reflection of us, right now. And so the final question is not